I'm gonna do a She Speaks horse in my childhood bedroom. So I have like horse show ribbons. I'm slowly taking them down. But all of these, I know there's like a whole culture now about like giving, and I have like eye boogers, everything. It's like morning coffee talk, but I know there's a whole culture now of like participation trophies, but I realized like every horse show ribbon that I have on my wall was like hard work, blood, sweat, and tears. And there's winning ribbons on this wall. There's winning ribbons, but I want to show my favorite horse show ribbon of all time. So this is like not all of them. My room is like still like kind of a storage place, but I have a bunch of horse show ribbons, and then I have like ribbons. Anyway, so this is my favorite horse show ribbon of all time. I don't want to show the name because I think they had to change the name of the facility, but this is from 2005, the 30th of July 2005, and it was on this thoroughbred right here named Louie. And I still have eye boogers. Fuck it. I'm gonna film it like this. This is not a first place ribbon by any means. This is actually a fourth place ribbon. And generally horse shows go about, depending on the type of horse show, it's like first through sixth place, or it's first through eighth place. And depending on the one, like if it's a big horse show and it's for money, sometimes it goes up to 10th place, but usually it's up to 6th place. The reason why I love this ribbon so much, and this is a place called Fair Hill Equestrian Center, and they run a couple of races a year, something called eventing, and my horse, he was kind of a horse that was like a troublemaker. And because my horse was a troublemaker, like, it took a while to figure out what he wanted to do, you know? And he had started his life as a horse that was supposed to be raced. He didn't make the racetrack. And so he kind of hopped around from owner to owner. And he kind of he was kind of like an underdog, and I am a sap for underdogs. So, you know, he started out as like the hunt master, which is what like a fox hunter's horse. He was like the head hunt master's horse, which is, I'm not a huge fan of fox hunting in general. Not on the foxes, not on the dogs, and also not on the horses, especially not on the horses or the foxes. In modern fox hunting, they just take like a fox tail or some kind of thing and like put fox scent on it or animal scent on it. That's generally the way it's done now. But there's still like traditional fox hunts. So this ribbon was after changing my horse's vocation, and it was just because he told me, you know, horses have their own language, and I was basically made to please a whole bunch of people when we got a horse. And like the expectation was, you know, if you come from any sort of traditional home where psychology is involved, which is most, you also learn that sometimes you're living other people's expectations, and horses were always a sense of therapy for me. I think animals are extremely therapeutic, and my horse was telling me like he wanted to jump, he wanted to run, he didn't want to be what's called a dressage horse. So I listened to him and I started training secretly. It got me into big trouble, ended up with a concussion, things like that, you know, but you learn over the years, you learn over the years. And this was after listening to my horse. And the reason why this is so important is I took this horse around what's called a cross country course, And it was such a big cross-country course, I didn't have time to do what's called a walk beforehand. I didn't get to walk the whole course. I had to memorize it by the map that was written and just kind of figure it out, because I think we got to the horse show late and the course was so big that I didn't have time to walk the whole course. So I was like, well, I'm gonna wing it and I'm gonna trust my horse. And the course was very large because you're out in like fields and woods, and you're jumping jumps that are like in trees and fence lines and things like that. And so I remember coming around a corner and there was something called a coop, which is like, it's like a wooden, it's like two wooden, it's basically kind of like a wood pile, but it's like in like a triangle shape. And it was like on a downhill slope. And I was approaching it and I didn't walk it beforehand because I couldn't get up to it. I saw where it was, but I couldn't see the approach or the turn to it. And I realized on the approach to it, this is a pretty terrifying downhill slope, and I really gotta trust my horse right now because I've never schooled him over something like this. It's very big, and also it's downhill, and I've got to trust his legs right now, and I've got to trust that my horse knows me and that I listened to him enough to know that this is his vocation. Motherfucker pointed him at it and he took me over it beautifully. Now, there's 3 phases to what we did. It's like a triathlon. There's a dressage phase, cross-country phase, and show jumping. And he did tear me around the show jumping arena, but we still ended up in the ribbons. And he did everything very fast. He did everything in his face, meaning like he was a horse that would run with bit heavy. He would go into his mouth really heavy. And over the years, you know, working with him, I had a very strict rule that I would never bit him up, meaning like put hard metal in his mouth. I would only keep him on the most gentle bit and figure out how to ride that. And he went over those jumps, and maybe I could have put a harder bit in his mouth and maybe it would have made him more controllable, but I figured it out. And you know, he was a speed horse. He was a horse that was built for speed, and he took me around. This guy here. So this is my She Speaks horse story. I haven't been back. I was gonna do one about a horse race track, but I didn't want to call out the horse race track because it's in a state that I really believe needs to have a horse race track, and I think they're doing the best they can do, and I don't want to call them out while they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do. So I've kind of been off the She Speaks horse, but I'm just gonna share personal stories along the way, even if they're weird, because I love horses and I'm a comedian, and the reality right now is I can't get one yet, but one day I will get my gentle giants. So that's my story. That's why this ribbon means so much, and that's my horse.